A leader is going to bring you to the line of your potential. A good leader is going to take you one step past that line of potential, and a great leader is going to take you two steps past. The only downside to a good leader, them only giving you one step past, is you don't have enough reps to know that you actually can do it again. So you're going to doubt yourself. When you take two steps past, you know it was you, and you know you can do it again.
Welcome to Be Bold Branding, where we discuss the power of differentiating yourself through your own unique story and standout personal brand. World security is at the forefront of the news almost every day. Knowing we are secure affects our freedom, peace of mind, economic stability, personal safety, and much more. And today we have the opportunity to spotlight the story and star behind SYOTUS Technology, supporting and employing military veterans, first responders, and their spouses. Trei McMullen is a Special Forces veteran trained and educated in intelligence operations, counterintelligence, counterterrorism, emergency management, and homeland security, to name a few of his skills. Let's find out how his military experience impacted his personal brand and what he's known for today.
Trei, welcome to Be Bold Branding.
Thank you so much. That was a great introduction. I appreciate you.
Well, thank you for your service.
Absolutely.
Thank you for your support.
Yeah, this is that your background is like the key word. Yeah, no matter where you are on the planet, I think.
Baby, I live my life based upon that nobody's coming to save me, so I got to make it happen.
I like it. Hey, I like it. That does just speak so boldly to our entrepreneurs. In such a way, because I think we all can feel like we're totally out there by ourselves, and so that background is got to be powerful for your clients. Tell us a little bit about that background, and then what led you to the founding of SYOTUS. And
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I'm the youngest child of 6. I'm originally from a small place outside of Cleveland, Ohio. Born to the parents Luther and Johnny McMullen. Great family. Both my brothers up at the top were military veterans. I got some military veterans spread throughout my uncles, so forth and so on. I think that was pretty much where I'm from. It's hard to make it out of that area. There's not really a lot of success that happens from out of there. So I knew already, just being the youngest child of 6, I'm big on lessons learned. So I was watching everybody, observing to see who was making it, who wasn't, who was struggling, who had different, successes. And I think just watching, my family, my friends, and those that had come before me, it really guided me towards the military, as that's what I've always wanted to do.
Oh, fascinating. Well, that obviously, you told us a little bit about what shaped you leading up to the military, and so much more shaped you after that. Tell us a little more about your service in the military. Just give us a nice glimpse of what that was like.
Yeah, absolutely. So started off in the military, 2005, 2006, my first duty station. I started off as a military policeman. So my first duty station was in Kaiserslautern in Germany, K-Town. I was stationed there for 3 years. Out of there, I did a 15-month tour to Iraq. Came home. I PCS, which is permanent change of station, which means you basically move or get reassigned to a new unit, new location. So I was moved to Fort Benning, Georgia. I was in Fort Benning, Georgia for a year. Had some great successes there, which allowed me to get out of there. Basically, I was only there for a year, which is usually not common, but we won a contest. The best MP competition, which is called Warfighter, similar to the best Ranger competition. But we placed in that, and that put me in exposure of some of the senior leadership. And, they asked, like, what do you want to do? And the next thing I wanted to do was deploy. I was like, well, I want to deploy again. So it was like the next unit deploying is Hawaii. That sergeant major happened to be there, spoke with him, presented myself, and that got me to Hawaii. Once I got there, got married. I deployed again to Afghanistan for another 12 months. After that time, I decided to change my job. So I reclassed from military policeman to counterintelligence. At that point, it took me over to Fort Huachuca. I was in Fort Huachuca for another 21 weeks, similar to what I was when I first joined in Missouri for an MP. But this was for the advanced individual training portion of this. At this time, I'm a staff sergeant, so an E6 in the Army. I had switched over, went through all that, and then that brought me, once I completed and graduated that school, that brought me to Florida, to the 7th Special Forces Group, where I was the senior CI for 2nd Battalion, 7th Special Forces Group. Once that was complete, I got medically retired out the Army at 10 years. So I have ulcerative colitis Crohn's, just from all the different exposures, burn pits, and all the other crazy stuff, and taking ibuprofen and naproxen, a lot of days before running, just because of the pain in your knees and stuff like that. That's what they prescribe. So you're taking it, but unfortunately, taking NSAIDs at that rate can cause you to have some GI issues, which I'm a big advocate now for. I sit on the national board for the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation, and I sit on the state board for Florida and Alabama, driving education and opening up people's eyes to what potentially could happen if they were to stay upon, this path of taking, putting these small Band-Aids on without fixing the problem. So that led me to 2015. That's when I got out and I formed SYOTUS. SYOTUS stands for See You on the Other Side. This was a company that I dedicated to all my brothers and sisters that I had lost in the global fight against terrorism, and the opioid toilet bowl swirl, as I call it. I've lost too many friends from both, not having, a mission or a purpose they feel like after their service affects our soldiers and families dramatically. And that's where you see a lot of input and forward thinking in my companies to encompass these people, to reprogram and repurpose, to give them something to do, something to look forward to, and at base, just to serve once again, which is what we like to do.
So is that what's the main purpose of SYOTUS? Who's your ideal client?
Yeah, so our ideal client for SYOTUS is for SYOTUS LLC. That's a security guard company. Obviously, we protect people, places, and things. I've protected from Drake to Jennifer Aniston to CEOs and all across different sectors and vendors. For SYOTUS Technology, our first pillar with there is rideshare. So I would say, as the drivers are only military, law enforcement, firefighter, EMT, paramedic, and active duty spouses, those are our drivers. But it is open for anyone that does rideshare. So our ideal client is those that are just a little bit more security minded in their travel and transportation and want to take that step and having a person like that drive them.
Like what you're hearing? Hit that subscribe button and learn how you can change how you're seen and charge what you're worth. Wow. And now I know you've, and speaking of security and Hurricane Michael specifically, recovery, your company was responsible for protecting like $300 million in assets for FEMA. Can you walk us through like what was the most challenging part of that operation, Trey?
Man, you know what? If I start there, I got to go back one, because I tell a lot of people,
Sure.
especially this is for the entrepreneurs and stuff out here. My first big contract was actually, I just got out the Army. I was 27 and I got this contract for Puerto Rico. They were having a lot of situations over there. They wanted 100 shooters, executive protection agents, not really your typical level of security guard, but those with more combat experience. So I staffed that 100 people. I had a big staff, man. I remember going around telling everybody about it. I thought I was hot stuff, and took my whole staff over there. A week before my ADVON, which is the advanced party, had left, the government called me and said, I remember picking up the phone, and they said, hey, Mr. McMullen, just want to let you know that the government has canceled that contract. Well, I was just got out the Army, so I'm used to some type of receipt, some type of repayment. Like, okay, well, I've purchased all this stuff. I've done all this travel. Is there somewhere I'm supposed to send my receipts to get recouped for this, And she kind of got quiet and she said, no. And I said, wow. So she was like, yeah, this is, that's it. And I'm 27, spent probably $40,000-$50,000, my whole savings. I was just so excited. I thought this was the one. It's the big one. Let's go. So she called me that. And I remember walking out back and sitting on my table. And I called my program manager and I let him know. And he says, well, do you want us to notify the staff, the men that were going to go over? And I said, no, I'm going to do it. So the next day I sat out back and I called all 100 of them. And it was the hardest thing that I'd ever had to do.
I bet.
Oh, wow.
2 extremely good friends. From that, one was a past leader of mine. And then I lost another guy that I think he was it was a seasonal relationship anyway. But 99% of them were okay. And at this time, as soon as I get out of the Army, I'm also working for a company that is called Academy, which is previously called Blackwater, which is now called Constellus. So I'm doing high threat security all over, mostly CENTCOM, so Afghanistan, 60 to 90 day deployments. I'm doing over there. Even with my condition, I'm doing this, and it was a lesson. So what happens? Most of the guys from programs are from different specialties. You got CAD guys, Delta, Rangers, SEALs. It's the best of the best, like a conglomerate of them. And so I had a lot of those guys, and I remember going back over because I was broke. So I had to go back the next week. I called the schedule. I was like, hey, I got to get out of here. I got to get to Afghanistan. I need to go make some money. So I get there, and now my director of operations, he was actually my boss back then. He sees me and he says, what's going on with you? And I said, man, I'm just, I'm a little defeated. I kind of felt like I let everybody down, and I was embarrassed ultimately. And he says, hey man, don't worry about that. He says, we're contractors. We're used to that. And he was like, it's just new to you. Mm-hmm. And I said, oh, okay. But I still felt some way. And during that time, that notion that he took at the time to take me is what made me keep going. Mm-hmm. So from that contract, a year later, I got the FEMA contract. So this time I'm on the range, and my same program manager, he calls me and he says, just say yes. I'm on the range. I'm teaching somebody. I said, yes. I hung up. And I call him back after the range. I'm again about to go to Afghanistan in like 2 weeks. And he says, you know what you said yes to? And I said, no. He says, to one of the largest federal contracts in Florida history. And I said, really? And at this time, I had been getting groomed by another company that was grooming me. Basically, their CEO was grooming me because I live in the Panhandle. So there's a lot of hurricanes here. And, a lot of people like to plan and project for that and try to get federal contracts, so forth and so on. So he was planning to get this contract. And literally, the first thing I asked was, I said, so how do they feel about it? Because what happened was, they sometimes the government will go knock on your door if you bid on a federal contract. And if you're not there, they're not going to give it to you. So I was the subcontractor that happened to be at home. So they came and knocked on me. So now the subcontractor is now the prime. So they switched me from being the person that was supposed to be getting groomed, the learning lesson to learn this whole time, to the main guy. So I said, that's why I was like, how do they feel about it? I was like, I'm not sure how to handle this or whatever. I was excited, but I was like, I didn't know how to handle it. So I did what I knew best, Army. So I packed up, packed up my truck, filled it up with, my whiteboards, radios, get everything going. This company was supposed to give me my shirts and everything. I never even met them in person, and they sued me. So it is very important to know who you're doing business with. And just because somebody is grooming you for an opportunity does not mean that they have your best interest in heart.
Right.
So true. Or those that you bring in to work on your behalf or for you because they trust you, right? Absolutely. A very unfortunate situation, not your fault, but I'm glad you
shared with us what you do different the next time around, which is pretty much what you're doing. Right?
So literally from that contract, I'd made my first, SYOTUS had made its first $1 million. I'm 29 maybe. And, I'm running this and I'm working 70, 80 hours a week. I'm the type of CEO, I'm sitting at, when somebody can't show up to work, I'm going to put a uniform on. And literally some of the meetings that we would have up there in Tallahassee, the whole staff, the FEMA staff would walk in and they'd see me sitting at this desk. And then when they went in, I would go in the bathroom, change into a suit and walk in the meeting. And they would look at me and they'd be like, weren't you the guy that's just sitting out there? I said, yeah, nobody's going to work harder for me than my dreams.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
So after that one gets shaky too. I learned all kinds of different stuff, right? So I'm going through this one, learn some other stuff, gets to another point where I want to like give up or like, is this really what I should be doing? But I remember that Puerto Rico trip. And I remember that consistency is the only thing that matters. It's really all that matters. And this too shall pass. So staying consistent. And then because what happened is after that one, I got called again, federal government this time. And they say, hey, Trey, we need somebody to protect the GOPs down there in Florida. And I said, okay. I said, I'll do it. And they said, well, we've already bid this out. And the last company had it for 4 months and they were only able to hire 7 people. And I said, okay. I said, how long do I have? I think it was Tuesday. He said, unfortunately, I can only give you till Saturday.
Wow.
100 people staffed it, every county in Florida.
Wow. Incredible.
Every single one of them. So basically I say all that to say this. If I would have gave up after Puerto Rico, I wouldn't have met the FEMA contract. If I'd have gave up after the FEMA contract, I wouldn't have the federal contract. You know what I mean? The private contract.
I know exactly what you mean.
So,
keep pushing.
I learned during this time that, man, no matter how bad it is, just keep at it. Consistency is key here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I definitely believe that. I didn't serve in the military. Had several family members that did. There's a long story why I didn't, but or a short story, depending. We're not going to get into it today, but I've always looked at it like this. The battles teach us how to win the war. Like you learn, it doesn't really matter what the outcome is on the obstacle that you're fighting. And sometimes it looks like, oh, golly, man, I can't overcome this. But I love what you said about consistency, because that's my favorite word, right? We still got to do tomorrow what we were doing today, no matter what the obstacle that we've been handed. And if we keep doing that and we learn from those times we're kicked down, then we're going to be able to win the war. Yeah. And your life proves that over and over again. And your training, right, to be able to do that. There's a lot of people that would even shrink back from $1 million contracts, right? Yeah. Those are big things. Like to staff 100 people to do anything is an unbelievable obstacle, right? Yeah. Especially this day and time, because I have a hard time finding anybody to work. Yeah. And so it's that all of that's amazing. And like you just like, well, I can do this. Like I could do this, and you just keep trudging. And that's a takeaway for the listeners for sure. That's important. No matter what your obstacle is, it's there to teach you a lesson. Learn from it, and the next one's going to be a gain.
And it's going to take sacrifice. So while I'm working overseas contracting, I get an infusion every 6 to 7 weeks. Well, when you first start program, the minimum days that you can serve is 88 days, a little bit past 49 days, right? So during this time, I'm getting weak. My ailment is affecting me in ways that you can't even imagine. To the point where when I'm coming back home now, I'm going straight to the hospital. We're not even telling the kids. I'm going straight to the hospital and spending 2 days to get a blood transfusions and to get right back up on that pony and get back out. Nobody. I did that for 5 years till my doctor just eventually said, "You're going to kill yourself." I said, I didn't care, because this is what I was here to do. I have a family. I have to provide. This is what, if I was to die, this is what I would want to die doing. You know what I mean? So sacrifice is such a big part of this.
It is sacrifice and commitment, incredible testament to your strength. Trey, and you actually have a philosophy I'm really curious to learn about. Never above you, never below you, always beside you.
Yeah, that's my personal mantra. I've always kind of been like that. I didn't like when people talked over people's heads. So I got all my degrees too, associates, bachelor's, master's. I graduate. I defend my dissertation for my doctoral in like 2 weeks. So I'll graduate this year with my doctoral. I'll be one of 20 in the United States. But
Congratulations.
Yes.
Yeah.
thank you so much. Man, it's just how I live. I was always raised, I was raised by both parents, but I contribute my mom to a lot. You never know who you're going to need in this life. That was the biggest thing. You never know who you're going to need in this life. Treat everybody right. Treat everybody fairly. Treat everybody as if they were your child, your brother, your sister, your wife. And if you do that, you'll build a good brand.
I love that.
Absolutely. I do too.
That.
We like to say 98% of people will meet your brand before they ever meet you. Yeah. And that includes your reputation.
Absolutely.
Your reputation always precedes you. And if your reputation and your brand are dialed in the way you deserve them to be, then you're going to live the life you deserve to live. There's no question about it.
My grandpa always said, shake hands with everybody that you meet on the way up the ladder, because that hand might be connected to the butt you have to kiss on your way back down.
Absolutely. Very true. That is so true. And when it happens, you remember.
Yeah, they will too. Hopefully.
Oh, yes. Exactly. Well, one final question for you before we ask for your information for our audience. And that is, if you had to pick one high-profile leader to protect for a week, who would that be? And what do you think would shock them most about the real security vulnerabilities they face every day? Two-part question, I know.
Ooh, that's a good one. I would probably say judges. Anybody in a judicial or adjudicating position that has the ability to sentence somebody to time or give somebody a punishment. Yeah, I would like to show those people, you know what I mean? It's a lot more vulnerability. And in that type of position, people don't come after you. They come after your family.
Interesting.
So that's hard to do, especially when they have to live their lives and they're going to go out and do this and they may not be in your locale. It's hard. So I think anybody in an adjudicating body, a judge or something like that, anybody, I would like to show them how much at risk they are.
Fascinating. Great yeah.
Answer. So Trey, tell the audience how they can learn more about you and SYOTUS. And
absolutely. Feel free. Most people connect with me on LinkedIn, so you can find me on there. Trei McMullen, Trei, last name McMullen, McMullen. Or you can find me on social media at SYOTUS, SYOTUS LLC, or UC_CronesFighter on Instagram as well.
Awesome. We'll put those in the show notes for everybody. And Trey, thank you again for your time, for your service, what you're doing out there. Keep up the fight, man.
I appreciate you guys so much. I'll leave your listeners with one bit of motivation that I kind of came up with last week. I was just thinking about leaders, and I was writing my thank you letter to my dissertation committee. And one of my professors, Professor Brunham, she really pushed me past my barrier of entry. She pushed me past my line, what I thought I was going to be able to do or could do. And I came up with this saying for leaders. So there's leaders, there's good leaders, and there's great leaders. A leader is going to bring you to the line of your potential. A good leader is going to take you one step past that line of potential. And a great leader is going to take you 2 steps past. The only downside to a good leader, them only giving you 1 step past, is you don't have enough reps to know that you actually can do it again. So you're going to doubt yourself. When you take 2 steps past, you know it was you, and you know you can do it again. So
love it.
A great leader.
Love it. That's awesome.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Awesome. As Michael often says, if you can't do it more than twice, it's luck.
Yeah, and you'll feel like that. You'll have those those quiet nights. Those sometimes somebody says no, and you start to think it's you, and it's not.
Yeah, you have to keep pushing and go those 2 steps. You're awesome, Trey. Thank you again, and once again, very genuine gratitude for your service.
Thank you so much. I look forward to seeing you guys on the other side of whatever that may be for yourself.
Same here.
Ready to change how you're seen and charge what you're worth? If you're not getting enough opportunities to meet with ideal customers, or the prospects you're meeting with just aren't ideal, it's most likely your brand that's holding you back. So if you're a coach, consultant, or expert who is on the rise, you need our ultimate guide to a freedom-based brand. Download it free now at brandfaceguide.com.